Hi, Clemson fans. Matt Connolly here joining you, wrapping up the Tigers' impressive 30-0 victory at South Carolina tonight, joined by Joseph Hastings, who our excellent recruiting reporter, photographer, does a little bit of everything for us. Man, yeah, what a performance by Clemson. I think we both felt the same way. Like if Clemson could run the ball and avoid turnovers, that it was probably going to be a pretty easy victory, and that's exactly what happened. Just what were some of your takeaways, Joseph, from the game?
Yeah, so I had a feeling that Clemson was going to be able to run the ball pretty good against South Carolina's defense. You know, South Carolina's rush defense hasn't been stellar this year, and Clemson's just coming off a 333-yard rush performance against Wake Forest. But I didn't think that they would be able to get 265 yards. I didn't think they would be able to be that effective on the ground. They were very impressive in that area of the game, and that led to them, once again winning the time of possession battle, the third straight game they've done so to end the season. So a really strong finish in that regard. And yeah, it was, that environment was rocking at Williams-Brice Stadium. It was my first time being there. You kind of hyped it up, and I didn't know if it would be able to live up to the expectations, but it did. And Clemson was able to drown out all the crowd noise with just stellar run play, nothing too much in the passing game, which I was a little bit surprised by how inefficient they were in the passing attack, but the run game more than made up for it. And to go into that hostile environment, to finish off the season with the fifth straight win, the regular season with fifth straight win, just nothing but impressed with Clemson's performance.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought, really that first drive, I thought really set the tone. And DJ Uyunglele wasn't great tonight. I'm not going to pretend that he was as far as passing, but I thought his run on the first drive of the game, Clemson had a 3rd and 11. First drive of the game, the crowd was very, very loud at that time. Mm-hmm. And South Carolina sent a blitz, and he tucked it and made a quick decision, tucked it and ran, picked up the first down on 3rd and 11. And I thought that really set the tone for the entire night. Just a huge play by him, kept the drive alive. Clemson ends up finishing off the drive with a touchdown. I thought that just really set the tone. And the crowd before the game, super loud, great environment. At that point in the game, it was super loud, great environment. I felt like the only way Clemson didn't win this game is if DJ got rattled and turned the ball over a lot and started making mistakes. But the game wasn't put on him. It was put on the running game. And so it didn't matter that he had struggles. So, yeah, just really impressed with that first drive, that play by him, and then just the way Clemson just continued to pour it on. They were averaging nearly 8 yards a carry at the halftime. And so, they didn't keep it that level, quite that same level in the second half, but they also didn't need to. Just got conservative, which made a lot of sense. And we got to talk about the defense, man. I mean, that I tweeted, I think South Carolina could have played 30 quarters, and I'm not sure they would have scored a touchdown against that defense. It was just such a one-sided, just a disaster for South Carolina's offense. I mean, they couldn't run it all, and that's what Dabo talked about after the game is they felt like they couldn't run on them, or if they couldn't run on them, Clemson would be able to create some turnovers, which they did. They didn't think South Carolina could beat them passing the ball, which clearly they couldn't do. So, man, it's a dominant performance from top to bottom by Brent Venables in that unit. They're playing excellent football as the season kind of winds down.
What really kind of put a smile on my face is Clemson's up 30-0. South Carolina is, pushing into the red zone. They into the final drive of the game, and it was well out of reach. Everyone knew that, but toward the end, I was on the sideline watching Clemson sidelines, and they were into it. They were into the game, hoping for the shutout, cheering their teammates on. And that really goes to show the mentality that this team had going into the game, that they were going to play all 4 quarters, all 60 minutes as hard as they can, and they weren't going to let up. And I think it just means a little bit more playing against, an in-state rival like South Carolina. You're looking for your 7th straight win over them, which would be tied for the longest streak in this rivalry's history. I think they're just meant a little bit more to it. Look, this team isn't playing in the playoffs. That's been established for quite some time. And we found out on Friday after North Carolina blew a game against NC State that they shouldn't have blown. But we found out then that they weren't going to be playing for the ACC championship. But for Clemson, this game kind of felt like as close to a playoff game as they were going to get this year. There were a lot of big games before the Georgia game, obviously the Wake Forest game the week before, but there just meant something more with this being a rivalry game, with it being the end of the regular season. So trying to keep that 10-win season in play. And, you could just tell that on the very final drive where they were all pushing for that shutout and were cheering and screaming when they were able to hold South Carolina out the end zone. So what an impressive defensive performance. The rushing game from South Carolina was non-existent. They had 43 rushing yards on 20 attempts as an average of 2.2 yards per attempt. I mean, Clemson's defense coming into this game was, I believe, top 10 in the country. I may be mistaken, but they were only allowing 104 yards on the ground per game. And they held South Carolina to a season low. So what they were able to do rushing the ball on offense versus what they were also able to do on defense, stopping the run, that's where they won the game, in my opinion. They were probably going to win regardless, even with how bad Uyunglele was. I still think he would have made more plays than whatever South Carolina had out there. But just 30-0, second straight win over 20 points, just a great end to the regular season for Clemson. Yeah,
I mean, just an incredible performance by that defense. First time since 1989 there's been a shutout in this series. So obviously that's a long time. And yeah, I mean, they played right till the very end. Dabo was talking about he loved the fact that down there they get the tackle inside the 5-yard line to end the game in the shutout, keep the shutout streak alive. So yeah, not many shutouts ever in this rivalry, and certainly a good way to end the season. I mean, 5 straight wins is incredible from where this team was at 2-2 at one point. They ended up winning 7 of their final 8 games. So really just about all you could hope for if you're a Clemson fan, for them to finish the season the way they did.
So Matt, I did like a quick little research on this. Maybe you heard from, one of the Clemson stats people, or just recalling it from your memory, but is this Clemson's first shutout away from home since the 2016 Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think it is, because they had a shutout against Citadel last year. So they
did that. Yeah. It was only the second road shutout. I do know that. The other one was in 2015, but I don't know about the neutral. But that probably checks out with the Ohio State game, which was another dominating performance. And that Ohio State offense was a little better than this Clemson one, or I'm sorry, the South Carolina one. But yeah, and I really think, I mean, you look at what they've done. This Clemson defense has given them a chance to win every single game. Georgia didn't score a touchdown on them, which is incredible now when you look at what Georgia's doing and how they're rolling. Wake Forest playing that outstanding offense that put up 40 again today, or over 40 again today, holding them to 14 or 13 points for the first 3 quarters, 27 for the game. They've been put in a lot of bad situations this year, and they've overcome all of them. Just about, at least defensively. I feel like they've more times than not, if they get a turnover deep in their own territory, they're keeping them from scoring. The red zone defense has been outstanding. They made the goal line stops at the end of the game. So it's not enough good things you can say about the job that Brent Venables is doing. They did this, by the way, tonight without Xavier Thomas, who was out with a hamstring injury. So just a great all-around performance by the defense, great all-around performance by the team, and really about all you could have hoped for if you're a Clemson fan.
I think one thing that shocked me about this game, and I read the stat out loud in the photo room after the game, I was like, Clemson had 1 sack. And I had like 3 or 4 heads turned toward me like, wait, Clemson had 1 total sack? The defense had come into this game having 40 total sacks on the year. They had like 24 in the past 4 games or something like that. So they were operating at a very high level, and South Carolina's offensive line had given up 28 sacks coming into this game. So that's where it was a little bit confusing to me. If you had told me before this game and said Clemson was only going to have 1 sack on the night, I would have been a little bit concerned. I would have been like, okay, maybe South Carolina relied on the run game, or maybe, they rolled out the quarterback a little bit, got them away from those pass rushers. But it was still surprising that the 1 sack was by KJ Henry in the 4th quarter on a 4th and 5 attempt. So I found that to be a little bit interesting, that despite how great the defense was, they weren't able to generate pressure on the quarterback. consistently, but maybe, you had a better view than I did. Is there an explanation for why that happened? Anything South Carolina did specifically?
Yeah, I don't think so. And look, I think I would say this about Clemson's defense. It's a very good unit. It does everything extremely well. I don't know that it's necessarily great in like any one thing. It's just a very good, solid defense. Like this is a good pass rushing team. It's not one of the best pass rushing teams that Clemson's had. It's a good group of linebackers. I don't know that it's necessarily the best group of linebackers they've had. I just think that it's a group that everyone's where they're supposed to be at all times. It's a veteran group. They don't miss tackles. They just go out. They stop the run. They don't give you anywhere to go in the running game. You may get a yard or two, but that's it. At least that's what South Carolina was getting tonight. They weren't having any kind of success running the ball consistently. And then it's not like an elite necessarily pass rushing defense, particularly with guys like Brian Brzee and Xavier Thomas out. But what they do is they just play their assignments, do what they're supposed to do. Don't give any running lanes. Jason Brown tried to step up when he was still in the game a few times and scramble, and he didn't have anywhere to go. So I think it's just a very solid unit that's not necessarily great in any one thing, but that does its job well, plays very well as a unit, and continues to get the job done.
All right, so our YouTube viewers were treated to a little something special there. Matt, you were a little bit behind with your internet connection, and your video started fast forwarding a little bit. So you're talking in fast motion, but hey, this is after the game. Internet connection's a little bit weird. We got people in the background, so bear with us here. And once again, thank you all for tuning in to this post game recap. And it wouldn't be a post game recap if we didn't talk a little bit about the offensive side of the ball outside of the running game. Matt, what happened with the passing attack? There were no Clemson receiver had more than 2 receptions on Saturday, and they won by 30 points. Will Sweeney had 2 receptions. Dakari and Bo Collins each had 2 receptions. I was shocked. DJ Uyunglele had less than 100 yards passing. I mean, we knew that Clemson was going to rely more on the ground game, but I didn't know if it would be to this extent that we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me before the game that DJ was going to pass for 99 yards and complete 9 of 19 passes, not throw a touchdown and throw a pick, I would have thought Clemson's probably in trouble. And instead, they win 30-0. So, and look, I mean, I think too, like some of that was play calling. Clemson didn't want to get too greedy. It was pretty obvious that South Carolina wasn't going to score unless Clemson helped them in a big way, whether it be a turnover, a pick six, or sack fumble, anything like that. South Carolina just wasn't going to move the ball consistently. So it made sense for Clemson, especially with the injuries they've had, just run the ball, get out of town, and go celebrate a win. Yeah, I mean, it's still, even looking ahead to next year, it's certainly concerning. I think 4 or 5 of the last 9 games, DJ was under 50% completion, which isn't what you want from your quarterback. He was under 50% against UConn, under 50% again tonight. He's just struggled some with his accuracy. And it's not all him. I mean, there's been a lot of moving parts around him. I actually thought he made some throws today that could have been caught that weren't. I thought he threw some really good balls, but he also had some just those kind of inexplicable ones where it sails on him or, makes a bad read, whatever it may be. He had the pick on the deep ball. So still making too many mistakes, but did enough to get the job done. Made, like I said earlier, made the huge play on the 3rd and 11 with the run. So he was okay, not great, but did enough to get the win.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next year. Obviously, speculation about Cade Klubnik potentially coming in and starting. I know that's something that should be considered and maybe a talking point throughout the offseason, but one thing that I've heard about Cade and kind of seen from him, I feel like he may have some more physical development to go through, just, putting on some more muscle, being college ready to take some of those hits that DJ took. Because say what you want about DJ. It's a big dude, 6'5", 250 pounds. He can take some hits. Cade, I don't know if, he can necessarily take some of that punishment, given where he's at right now. He may need another year. I mean, since we're throwing out a lot of options, like, Cade potentially starting, does Clemson go into the transfer portal and try and get a quarterback who's ready to start right now? Who knows what's going to happen? I doubt that's the case. So I'm likely leaning.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll go with no on that one.
Yeah. I think we're just going to throw out everything out there at this point. Because when you're losing players to the transfer portal, I think it would be not foolish, but it wouldn't be smart to entertain the possibility of bringing in some players who could be ready to start now. And Clemson should have next year a good team. Like you're returning, what is it, 15 offensive linemen. You're going to be having a wide receivers group that features Bo Collins, Takari Collins, who have really emerged in the second half of the season, and hopefully Joe Ngata can stay healthy. And we'll see how Davis Allen develops. Braden Galloway should be back. So the offense should be good enough for whoever is the quarterback to have some success. And we'll see if DJ ends up being the guy, but he's been up and down. I really don't know if I can fault him too much for tonight. You're starting two true freshman wide receivers. One of his top targets was Will Sweeney. No offense to Will Sweeney, but compared to what DJ had to work with before with Justin Ross and Joe Ngata and EJ Williams, it isn't the same caliber of player. So he did have a lot going against him, and plus the rushing game was so good that he couldn't really get into a consistent rhythm because they were relying on the running attack. So we've been critical of DJ. I'm not going to blame too much of this one on him, though. Had a few bad throws that he'll want back, but overall, this game was more about the running game than it was about DJ struggles or the passing attack struggles in general.
Yeah, and one thing I'll mention, Braden Galloway will be moving on. I think I don't think he'll be back, but the rest of the offense, pretty much top to bottom, is back. Obviously, Justin Ross is leaving too, but every player who started tonight should be back, other than Will Sweeney, which is just, you have to like the future if you're Clemson right now. I'll say this though about the quarterback play. I mean, if it improves with everything that's coming back, you could have one of the best offenses in the country. So I think the quarterback play is important. If it's clearly that's not breaking news, but just the ceiling of this team, if it gets even average quarterback play, maybe a little above average quarterback play, is a national title next year. I truly think that. I mean, I think the defense should be really good again. That's if Brent Venables is back. Obviously, I don't think the defense is going to completely fall apart if he were to leave, but assuming he's back next year, I think the defense will be really good. It is every year under Brent Venables. And then, you've got this offensive line that's really coming into its own, taking shape. All those guys will be back. Three young running backs, counting Phil Maffa, but really two guys that are just elite right now. Kobe Pace and Will Shipley ran great tonight. Will Shipley making people miss, running hard, running through holes. They're doing much better job of just being patient, finding their spots, than accelerating through the hole. Kobe Pace's touchdown run was just a great play by him. I mean, he is able to find through the hole. It looks like the defender has an angle on him. He just leaves them. I haven't really seen that burst from him, honestly, all year consistently. And part of that's been injuries and stuff like that, but really, really impressed with him. So, yeah, man, the future for this offense is super bright. The future for this team is also super bright. And I want to give a shout out to the coaching staff too. To go from where they were 2-2, really, really struggling, had some games they easily could have lost. You just see now this coaching staff, and Dabo says all the time, this is a developmental program. You see how this team has developed as the year has gone along. You see how players have gotten better across the board. I mean, the defense is better now than it was at the beginning of the year. The offense is significantly better now than it was at the beginning of the year. So credit to the coaching staff too for continuing to put together good game plans and help guys improve.
Yeah, this is, we keep on belaboring the point, but this is a team that could have gone either way in terms of a lot of the results that they had this season. It could have gone either way. You think about the Georgia Tech game, you think about the Louisville game, but at the end of the day, they're 9-3, and to go from where they were, like you said, they were 2-2, and, even after the loss against Pittsburgh, 4-3, and people questioning whether a bowl game was going to be a possibility. For Clemson to get to where they're at right now, to be 9-3, it's not Clemson great, but for a lot of programs, especially in the ACC, to have gone through the injuries that they went through, to have gone through some of the turmoil in terms of offensive play calling and questions surrounding that, and some inconsistent play at quarterback, and just everything that they've had to endure, a 9-3 season, it would be welcomed by by most programs in the country, but Clemson holds itself to a high standard. And you know, I expect if everything goes according to plan next year for them to get back to championship level play. Because, I mean, believe it or not, they could have been in that position this year, you know, had a couple of games gone their way that they had lost. So, yeah, it definitely remains to be seen where they go from here. But we're looking forward to the bowl game. Matt, I'm kind of interested in hearing your thoughts. We talked before about what the possibilities of a bowl game could be, you know, whether it be the Gator Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl. We didn't get to talk, though, about what matchup would probably be most interesting, most compelling. You know, what would kind of be the one out of either bowl game, whether, you know, it be the Cheez-It Bowl or the Gator Bowl, would you like to see Clemson go up against?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, I really feel like, honestly, no matter who Clemson plays at this point, I would really like their chances. Just the way that they're playing right now. I mean, I just think that this is a team. You know, I was thinking today earlier, a few years back, Alabama played, I think it was in the Capital One Bowl. I believe they played Michigan State. And it was an Alabama team that was kind of like this one that wasn't great, but kind of found its way as the season went along. And then at the end of the year, in that bowl game, just absolutely crushed Michigan State. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we have a scenario like that with Clemson where they kind of go through the season, kind of going through the motions and stuff. I shouldn't say go through the motions, but just not having the season that we all expected them to have.
Yeah.
And then end the season with just an incredible performance and really have a big bowl game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, you look at like a possible SEC matchup. You know, that could be fun if you're playing an SEC team in the Gator Bowl. Maybe like a Texas A&M or someone like that. And then I think the Cheez-It, I believe, is a Big 12 matchup. So lots of interesting, intriguing opportunities. I think Big 12 could potentially be like a Kansas State team, which lots of storylines there with Brent Venables kind of coaching against his alma mater. So whoever it is, I'm sure it'll be a fun game, but I like Clemson's chances. And really an SEC team, you know, Texas A&M beat Alabama this year. I know then they turned around and lose to LSU, and not a great season for them either, but that'd be a little fun too. Dabo versus Jimbo again. We thought we were done with that. So, no, there's a few interesting options out there, but definitely excited to see kind of how it goes. And, man, I'm hoping for Florida personally. I wouldn't mind some sunshine this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's from the Sunshine State, who's lived there most of my life, I would not disagree with you there, Matt. One point I do want to go back to, though, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on our Tigers Den message board on ClemsonSports.com. You know, you can call me crazy if you want. I give you full permission to do so, Matt. I said in a neutral site matchup, I said this 2 weeks ago, I may be tempted to take Clemson over Alabama. Am I crazy for saying that? I'm not saying I definitively would. I'm saying I may be tempted to.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I honestly probably would take Clemson right now. And I just think that Clemson's just the way they're playing right now is really playing about as well. I mean, like I think just about anyone they went up against right now, outside of maybe Georgia, I would probably give Clemson a pretty good shot. I just think that they're playing really well right now, much better than they were early this season. Clearly, you think about Alabama today, was very, very fortunate to escape with an Iron Bowl win over Auburn. That's the same Auburn team that lost to South Carolina last week. And we all saw what Clemson just did with South Carolina. So, I would like the way Clemson's playing right now. Like I said, I would like their chances over just about anyone. And that's why I feel going into a bowl game as well.
So if Clemson had beat NC State, they're making it to the ACC championship. They win that game. They're definitively making it to the playoffs. We both would agree with that, right?
I don't know. It's still a 2-loss team. I think that they probably wouldn't get in with a 2-loss team, honestly. But crazier things that happen. But
I think it'd be really close with one of those losses being to the number 1 team in the country and another to a top 25 team in the country. And then if you beat that team again, you know, Pittsburgh in the ACC championship, I don't know, some crazy things have happened, especially with how insane the college football season has been this year, I think Clemson would have a good shot. So I had brought that up just to say, like, even though this season has been so up and down, a lot of things going on, you're a double overtime loss on the road away from potentially making it to the playoffs. Just to put it in context.
Yeah, and I say I don't think they would get in, but they would certainly have a case. I'm sure Dabo would make his case, and he'd be fighting like crazy to try to get them in and making his points and stuff. So, yeah, the way they're playing at the end of the year, if they went and beat Pitt next week, maybe they would be able to sneak in the playoff, but we'll never know. When Alabama when it was looking like they were going to lose today, I was thinking maybe we could just have another like separate kind of tournament with all the normal playoff teams, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ohio State could just all play another little tournament and just kind of do their yearly thing, but it just won't be for a playoff this year. But I guess
just crown Georgia the champion, right? And then let those four teams play for second place.
Hey, there's no way that Georgia messes it up this year.
Nope, right? There isn't. It has to.
No,
end.
I'm being sarcastic. I think Georgia wins the national title, but man, I don't know.
It has to end this year. It's been since 1980. So many decades have passed, and I'm not a Georgia supporter or anything like that, but that fan base has suffered long enough, Matt. They have suffered long enough. They should have all the hope in the world with that defense and the way the offense has been playing. I'm taking Georgia. I would be absolutely floored, minus a big injury or two, if Georgia doesn't win the championship this year.
Yeah, and I like Georgia to win it too. One of my best friends is a huge Georgia fan though, and he's already like nervous about kind of what's going to happen this time, because it seems like every year it happens for Georgia. But anyway, getting back on track, just looking ahead, we talked some about the bowl game. I think we'll know that in about a week or so. Kind of the definitive, obviously Gator Bowl, Cheez-It Bowl, and the Holiday Bowl appear to be the most likely. I would say probably Gator or Cheez-It out of those two.
Okay.
But it's also maybe me being a little kind of wanting to stay in Florida, right? Cross the fingers. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a huge game. It's an opportunity for Clemson to get 10 wins once again, which would be an incredible feat considering what this season's been like. So I think this team made the most of what it could this regular season. We'll now go try to get a little healthy. Dabo said at some point maybe we'll have some receivers back, which would be nice, and they're not just playing kind of whoever they can find. He joked this week that maybe I was going to go play receiver for him. And I was getting some text in the third quarter asking if I was able to go suit up, but that would not have gone well. But yeah, just once again, just a big win for Clemson tonight. We've got a ton of coverage up on ClemsonSports.com. There's a lot going on with recruiting right now as well, with signing day getting close. And Dabo said tonight, they're going to be out on the road recruiting here this coming week. He'd much rather be in Charlotte playing for the ACC championship, but going out recruiting and bringing in some guys trying to finish out the class nicely is a priority as well. So,
and keep some current guys that are in the class, keep them in the class too.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, for sure. Including Keon Sabb, who visited Michigan this weekend. So yeah, just encourage y'all. We're still running our 50% off offer for Black Friday deal through Cyber Monday. So encourage y'all to come check it out, come sign up, and check out all our team and recruiting coverage over there. Joseph, anything to close us out?
Oh, I've got to mention, I can't believe I didn't forget to talk a little bit about my experience, my first time in Williams-Brice Stadium. I mean, it started off with me going outside the stadium and seeing someone get arrested. So that was already I was already a little bit shell-shocked when I saw that. And I get into the stadium and I hear this loud noise that I definitely know that that God definitely did not intend for any human being to hear this more than one time in a given sitting. I heard a loud rooster sound, and it scared. I almost dropped my camera. I had no idea. I had no idea where that was coming from. I was looking in the air. I couldn't tell. And it honestly made me want to leave the game early. Kept on hearing it, even when they were down 30. So people in rooster costumes, just a lot of crazy characters out there. But I enjoyed it. The atmosphere was awesome. Great fan attendance on both sides. Dabo Swinney after the game, went in and high-fived. It was like that guy from Home Improvement, Ty Pennington, when he would run down the line and give people high fives. That's what Dabo did with all the Clemson fans. I found that to be really awesome. It was a great, wholesome moment after the game. And I'm going to be having some pictures that I took. I'm going to be posting that on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. And like Matt said, take advantage of our Black Friday deal, $50 for a whole year, normally $100. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, be on the lookout for our next video. We don't know when it's going to be. We'll see. We'll kind of let things play it out. But we look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you all for tuning in.